Welcome to And It's Live, the podcast which dives deep into football's most iconic seasons, stories, and what ifs. If you love football, history, tactics, and nostalgia, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and drop us a like on YouTube so you don't miss an episode.
You mentioned that second half. It's what can only be described as an onslaught, I think, the last sort of 20 minutes or so for Leverkusen. I counted 3 excellent saves, at least, late on in the game. And again, an interesting keeper subplot again is 𝐿𝐵𝐿 is the Leverkusen goalkeeper who we never spoke about, who was one of these extrovert keepers at the time.
Yeah.
𝐿𝐵𝐿-esque. He was basically camped in the Madrid box with the amount of corners that Leverkusen had. It would have been quite humorous if a penalty had been given because 𝐿𝐵𝐿 was their penalty taker, which would have been quite interesting towards the end.
It had been known to step forward and strike a free kick as well. For Martin, you must fucking hate that. Just that for me.
Not for me.
Yeah, I just hate that nonsense. The thing that impresses me about Zidane goal, first of all, the movement, the hip movement, the swivel to do it. Secondly, the confidence to even attempt that. You have got to be pretty fucking sure of yourself as a footballer to do that on the biggest stage, to even attempt it, because you could make an arse of yourself, really. I would injure myself even trying to replicate it. And it's just such a fantastic goal. I'm glad to hear some praise for Lucio, one of my favourite players of the 21st century. His partnership with Walter Samuel at Inter, I'm already looking forward to do it, because Lucio was a really good footballer, good feet for a big man, Martin. Right, he did. He scored goals, and he was a fucking animal in a good way. He was your, 𝐵𝐿 style. I will stab this referee if I think it might help us get a draw. He was that type of guy, and I think there's actually a lot of interesting comparative points between this final and the 2024 Champions League final that we watched this year between Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund. And I think that Leverkusen come out better in the comparison because Dortmund, as we know, went for it and did, they were really good and they had their chances. But as soon as Real Madrid score, it was done. Everyone knew it. It was over. That isn't the case here. They go a goal down and they say, right, okay. And even in that last 20 minutes, they're not playing. It's an onslaught, but it's not desperation, if that makes sense. They're still playing to their strength, thinking if we keep doing. I think that takes real belief, basically, to say we'll keep doing what we're doing because it will pay off for us. Now, it doesn't, of course, and that is unfortunate. But I think that it is a real indicator of the belief that was in this team, which to me makes it even more surprising that they ended up with nothing out of this. I would have thought they would have ended up with probably not this. I think Real Madrid were always the favourites. I think everyone fancied Real Madrid to win it. But this was not a side, to me, and watching the highlights back today, who looked like they had run out of legs, basically. Long season, the emotions got that. They didn't look like that. They were just, on the night, they were up against a slightly better side and maybe didn't take a couple of chances. But it still surprised me that he didn't end up with anything. And again, I do wonder how much of that is Leverkusen, the DNA of a club that we've discussed before.
Adam, how much were Real hanging on? How comfortable was that second half for them with that lead?
Not at all. I mean, 𝐿𝐵𝐿 makes some great saves. They should have scored, Leverkusen, I think, at least another one. Who knows where it will go to? Again, you got that keeper dynamic. 𝐿𝐵𝐿 absolutely redeeming himself and going on to cement himself as the keeper, which that subplot had sort of forgotten. Obviously, you just think of him. You just think of that as being just the most perfect Madrid career ever. He just appears and was excellent. I'd forgotten about this little dip and his heroics here. Cement him back in for the season after. So that penalty dynamic would have been interesting if it had got that far. But they were, I think, hanging on. You see it and you think, oh yeah, well, Real Madrid won, Leverkusen collapsed at the end of the season. This is a great Real Madrid team. Okay, fair enough. But they were. I mean, I would challenge anybody to go back and watch that game the last 20-25 minutes. It's an onslaught. And they just can't get it over the line.
They just don't score, but they're not a side who, as you say, have collapsed. No, I don't think. I mean, they don't give that impression.
And you would think it, because, like we said, that this is their.
Yeah.
They've lost the. I don't know if the German Cup final was before or after this, but they've lost the league by this point. So you would probably think it. But yeah, unlucky, and it's an interesting one because they won't be remembered anywhere near as fondly as a Valencia.
If you enjoyed the show and want to help us grow, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. On YouTube, search for And It's Live Podcast. We've got new deep dives, drafts, and breakdowns dropping every other day.